Hi, this is David Staples, coming to you from Wisconsin tonight. So, of course, I'm on the road again. Um just got back from some sightseeing and was looking through some YouTube videos and had seen where looks like the PMP videos were pretty popular. So, figured I'd go ahead and add another video or two to those and see how you guys like these. I know that there's a lot of people out there studying for these different PMP exams, and figured let's talk about risk. It's one that I've been talking about a lot in some of the IT security courses that I teach. So tonight we're just going to address the uh, negative risks response strategies. I know that a lot of people typically say, well, what do you mean negative risks? Aren't all the risks negative? Well, not necessarily. There are actually positive risks out there as well, and there are ways to respond to those as well. But I will create a totally separate video for our positive risk response strategies. Uh, this time we're just going to be talking about the negative risk response strategies. But of course, before we can actually understand how we respond to these risks with these different strategies, we need to understand what risk is. So, a risk is essentially an uncertain event. It is not 100% likely that it will occur. It's just a possible occurrence. If something is 100% going to occur, it's no longer a risk. That is definitely an event that we need to plan for because we know it's going to happen. So, what are certain types of risks? Well, in the construction industry, they look at it could be a rainy season the next spring. Maybe we're doing the planning in the summer and the fall, and we say, we really don't know what the spring is going to look like. Of course, people are planning for certain types of weather, but we just never know till it gets here, right? So that's one type of risk. We also look at in the IT field. There's all sorts of risks with different vulnerabilities in our different systems, different exploits, different things that people could hack into or break into. We also look at risks being, maybe servers aren't delivered on time. Maybe the risk is that maybe this router could be out of stock, or the firewall could be out of stock, or maybe it's not the right type of router. There's a variety of different types of risks that we run into, and they're classified in a variety of different ways. We've got all sorts of natural disasters that could hit. We've got man-made risks, but of course, we're not really going to talk about those types of risks tonight. We're really just going to talk about how do we address these risks. So, according to PMI, the Project Management Institute, there are three different risk response strategies for negative risks. We have our risk mitigation, our risk avoidance, and our risk transference. So let's start with our risk avoidance. Risk avoidance means we're basically changing the way that we operate, changing business strategy, maybe changing policy to basically account for this risk and eliminate it due to not operating that way anymore. I'm just picking one example off the top of my head that I use in the IT security courses. So when we talk about risk avoidance there, we look at, maybe you've got a piece of chat software that you use inside the company, and you decide, okay, well, it looks like some new vulnerabilities have been found in that software, and it doesn't look like the software manufacturer is going to fix those. So we avoid the risk by changing software. We start to use, one of the many other different types of chat software out there. Maybe there's a construction risk of, maybe there's a lot of rainy weather that you could experience in the spring. So maybe we avoid the risk by starting the project a few months later and building in the summer or in the fall. So that's our risk avoidance. Again, we're basically just changing our strategy, changing the policy so that we basically avoid that risk altogether. So we also have risk mitigation. Risk mitigation basically includes things that we can do to lessen the chances of that risk occurring or to lessen the damage if it does occur. So things here could be, again, back to IT systems, since I am, my background is a lot in of IT project management. We could put in certain firewalls. We can put in certain unified threat management systems. We can put in new gateways, web content filters, new virus scanning systems. So there's different things that we can do there to lessen the chances. It could be that maybe with risk mitigation we are looking at a flood-prone area. So with that we basically maybe build up the soil a little bit to kind of mitigate and hopefully prevent any sort of water from reaching our building. Maybe we build some sort of a berm or our own levee or some sort of a barrier to try and prevent that flood from coming in. So that's essentially our risk mitigation. We're taking steps to try and prevent some sort of a risk actually occurring. And if it does occur, then hopefully we lessen the damage that it does as well. So the last option here is going to be our risk transference. Risk transference is essentially where we're shifting that risk to someone else. So there's a couple of different ways that I typically use as examples in my PMP classes here. One being that we can look at contractors, for instance. If we bring in a contractor on a fixed price contract, we know that we're paying them X dollars to perform whatever service or task it is. So just one of many examples. Let's say that we're paying a contractor, say $20,000 to wire a data center, a building for us, or whatever the case may be. And they have agreed to basically do all that wiring, including the materials and the labor, whatever the task may include, for that fixed price. If it costs them more money, they still charge us $20,000. If it costs them less than they thought it would cost, then of course they still charge us $20,000. So we shift that risk onto them. If it takes more hours for them to do it, of course they experience more labor costs. If it costs them $25,000 to do the project, well, they still told us that they would do it for $20,000. So we should still be able to have them complete that project at the $20,000 price. And maybe we'll use them again in the future, and hopefully they can actually reduce their costs and actually make some of that back. But again, we basically shifted that risk onto someone else by using that contractor. The other way we look at risk transference is essentially with insurance. So again, taking that flood example, maybe we decide that, okay, well, it is possible that this area could flood, take maybe downtown New Orleans or so. No one ever really thought that those levees would break, but they still built there anyways. But of course, if we want to transfer that risk onto someone else by building in a flood-prone area, then of course we can get insurance, flood insurance, right? So by getting the flood insurance, if there's a flood, if there's some damage, then it's the insurance company that actually absorbs the cost of that particular damage. And yes, we may have some deductibles or whatever the case may be, but essentially we're still insuring that risk or against that risk. And if there is any sort of major catastrophe, we won't be out, the hundreds of thousands or possibly millions of dollars for that particular project. So again, the 3 risk response strategies that you'll want to know for the PMP exam for negative risks are going to be that risk avoidance, changing our strategy, not operating as we normally have. We've got the risk mitigation, which again, we're basically implementing some certain procedures, or we're implementing certain facets to the project that will lessen the chances of the risk actually occurring, or if it does, then we reduce the damage. And then we've got the risk transferring. We're shifting the risk onto someone else. So I hope you found this video useful, and stay tuned for the video where I'll talk about the positive risk response strategies. And good luck when you take your PMP exam, and let me know how you do in the comments, or if you've got any suggestions, feel free to leave those in the comments as well. Thanks a bunch. Have a great day.